Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Beth Chats Books. So it's been a bit of a minute since I did a last video. It's been 2 weeks now and I really like to do at least one video a week because I kind of feel sane and kind of semi-connected, even though the booktube community, it's very hard to feel super connected all the time. There's been Thriller-a-thon, probably butchering that, but you know what I mean, the thriller readathon that's been hosted by Harriet Rose. There was Cozy Reading Night that's just gone by with host Lauren and the book. I have never managed to make a Cozy Reading Night. I think I made it through one, or maybe that was a dream, I can't really remember. And I watch all the videos, love the vlogs religiously, and somehow I just can't get into the world sometimes. I was super busy last week. Every time I spend a lot of time at pause, I don't necessarily have my iPad, which I really need to change because that's where I do all my filming. And the things get in the way. We've recently been to Newcastle to see friends, then we went go-karting on my day off on Tuesday with some of my friends, and then my brother lost his phone recently, so he's been using the iPad to stay in contact with people, which, yes, I'm a great sister for letting him have my iPad. That's kind of disconnected me. And then I've finished at lunchtime today and I've had a really crummy day, and I don't know if you guys have similar days. Last week I wasn't able to go swimming, which I usually do twice a week, because I went to Newcastle for half of that week, and then there was a wedding on the Saturday and I worked every single day and I had a late night in between everything, so I just didn't get anything done, and then Sunday was a write-off because I was hungover. And then this week, we're on Thursday now, and I wanted to get my swimming in, and I've come back from work at lunchtime, thought yeah, I'll be ready to go, and I'm just not. I'm feeling really crummy in myself. I had some lunch and then I tried to follow my boyfriend's very peppy advice when I was messaging him, and he said, oh, if you don't want to go, you should just go anyway. And I don't know if you guys feel the same. Sometimes I'm a little bit exhausted by everybody's high energy motivation, and then social media kind of throws it in your face that you must be doing everything all the time and cram everything into your day, and you know, you must be absolutely exhausted by the end of the day. You must have done everything. You must go out and walk and exercise and do everything. And I decided to run a bath and have a nap instead, which now I feel lots of lazy, being an absolute heffalump, couch potato guilt about. I just wanted to know, do you guys feel the same? Have you ever had those crummy days where you just don't want to do anything and you're getting angry and angry at yourself because it's kind of escalated maybe into a week where you don't do anything? And how do you deal with that? Do you think it's okay to just say, do you know what, screw it, it's not going to be my week this week, and just let it happen and have the bath and have the nap and have the stay in and chillax? Or do you think my overly productive boyfriend is right and I should just push through the pain and be super busy and do all the stupid Instagram motivational things like, I just did it because I needed to and I felt amazing pushing through all the barriers and today's what you make of it, and all those cliches? Should I be embracing them, or should I just get over it and just chillax? I think I need to go to the shop anyway later because the cat has no cat food, so I might get into some kind of semi-comfy clothes and I might go for a walk and listen to a podcast or something, and then do a walk instead, so we'll see. But that was kind of rambly because I'm feeling really stressed and I kind of feel guilty, and who do I splurge my guilt to? You guys, always. So because I'm in a crummy mood as well, I've been wanting to film this video for a while, but I've decided to film it now because I don't really want to discuss books. There's only a few that I've read since my Goodreads Summer Readathon. There's quite a few, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say I've read nothing because I always have a book on the go, but I like to accumulate quite a few books before it's worth talking to you guys. So instead, I'm going to talk about recent favourites. Now, these recent favourites span an expansive amount of time, so I would say, let's just give it a vague, rough leeway on that and say it's probably the last 6 months. Purely because there's some TV series here that I've absolutely adored, that they're either a new series of something or one of my favourites that I'm going to mention here I watched a good few months ago, but it's semi-relevant, so I'm going to go with that. So the first one that I want to talk about is I recently went with my mum to watch The Lion King, the remake. So that was probably a month ago now. Oh, has it been out a month? I want to say a month. Anyway, I was pleasantly surprised by the remake. I expected, because Lion King is one of my favourite Disney films. I put Disney princesses in a separate category because if you're a young girl, Disney princesses was life. But when it comes to actual Disney, Lion King was my absolute favourite, and I loved the second one, and I was obsessed to the point where we had the videos and they were coming undone, and we had all the cassettes all over the shop because we were watching them so much. So I was a little bit nervous for the remake, I'll be honest, especially when I heard Beyonce was going to be in it, because she's a queen, she's fierce, whatever. But I think that we have a problem with modern culture of just picking somebody who's good, and then we kind of do it to death. So yeah, you know, everybody's like, oh, Beyonce is life, oh, she's amazing, oh my god, her vocals are amazing. I don't dispute any of that, but I'm kind of a little bit sick of it. Anywho, I got past it. The soundtrack was very faithful to the original. The whole film was incredibly faithful. It was just real life looking, if that makes sense. I thought the fact that obviously real looking lions singing was going to throw me off a little bit. It didn't. It kind of worked, I think, successfully. We had a few little kids who watched it in the cinema with us, and they cried at the right bits, laughed at the right bits, which shows the magic of that story, that it still translates, a remake translates really well. Seth Rogen as Pumbaa was hilarious for me because he couldn't sing a stitch, but he worked that part really well. And nobody was disappointing in the cast, I think. They really did a great homage to the original. I was pleasantly surprised. I heard a few things on the grapevine and didn't think I would like it, but I really did. So I think I would give it maybe a 4 out of 5 on a film scale. I don't know how good that is for you guys because I don't really review films very often, but I think it was solid. And me and my mum had a really great day, and we laughed, and Mum loved watching it because of the nostalgia of when we were little and how important it was to us. So it was fantastic. So there we go. And then, oh my god, the next one I want to talk about is Stranger Things 3. Basically, if you've lived under a rock for a little while now, I'll fill you in on what Stranger Things is about. So it's about a group of kind of young people / on the cusp of prepubescent, let's say that. They're on the cusp of teenagehood in a town called Hawkins in the US. And they have weird encounters with an underworld. So these mythical dark creatures called demogorgons, and they live in the upside down, which means when the whole world is upside down. It's really hard to describe because it's a believable world when you're watching it. And so these, in the third one, they're all growing up a little bit more now. You can't really call them children anymore. And their relationships are kind of fragmenting a little bit in season 3 because they're starting to get relationships. One of them went to a summer camp, Dustin, my favourite. He's come back and he doesn't know how to integrate with them as well. We have 11, who's one of the girls. There's 2 girls and a few boys, and 11 has magical powers, so she can kind of go to the present where people are, and she kind of goes to the other world a little bit. It's really hard to explain as well, but she has powers that kind of connect with the underworld. And we kind of had a bit more of her backstory in season 2, which I've vaguely forgotten about. But it kind of explains how she has those powers. I think it's because she was tested on when she was younger. Will in season 2 kind of became a host and somebody that the Demogorgon kind of communicated with exclusively. And when we get to season 3, it's Billy. But everything heats up, everything's more intense in this one. I think initially season 2 was my favourite because I loved that suddenly from season 1 we were getting like really 80s music and cars and a little bit more of a backstory about people we wanted. But Dustin singing at the end to his girlfriend at the season finale, and Steve, just lots and lots of Steve this season. It's just beautiful. So I loved it. I think it's amazing. Apparently there's going to be a season 4. They left it on such a cliffhanger. I would give it maybe a 4. We'll give it a 4. It wasn't amazing, but it was exactly the fix I needed when it came. So there's that. And then a series that is kind of unique to the UK. Recently there was a series done called I Am, and there was 3 women. I am Nicola, I am Kirsty, and I am Hannah. So it had some quite famous British actresses that played the main lead. So Vicky McClure, who was in the This Is England series, and Line of Duty, was the main on the I Am Nicola storyline. And I'd forgotten the names of the other two actresses. But basically they went through some really intense and in-depth personal stories of these women. So, for example, I Am Nicola's story dealt with being in a claustrophobic relationship with somebody who is very emotionally manipulative and abusive. Kirsty's storyline followed a partner abandons her and steals from her, and she has 2 young daughters and she's really struggling to pay rent. She ends up befriending a loan shark with some damning consequences. And then we meet I Am Hannah, which Hannah's storyline revolves around, she's in her 40s, living in London, I believe, and she hasn't found anybody and she hasn't had any children, and it's a crucial point in her life where she really wants those things, but it's coming to terms with the fact that maybe her age is going to make having a child particularly difficult. She doesn't have a partner and she's really questioning what choices she's made with her life to get to that point. So they're all very poignant, very, very difficult watches. I watched them with my stepmom and my dad, and in particular we found that I Am Hannah was a little bit more deflating than the other two because it is more subtle, and really I think it would have been fantastic as the first story so that it had the airtime for you to reflect, because it is a very prominent issue in modern society how women over 40 are being shamed for not having children in a relationship. And she says something very poignant in the episode about how up until your 30s, as a woman, you're desperate just for your pregnancy test to always be negative. You always want to not have children and you're always rewarded by not being a silly girl and getting yourself pregnant. And within a 5-year time frame, from 30 to 35, it flips and suddenly, why haven't you got kids? So she said it's such a small window when they actually want you to have them, and life gets in the way. And it was very sad, but because the other two in some ways were incredibly horrific, particularly I Am Kirsty's storyline was very painful and disturbing to watch. Not because the content was overly disturbing. You really connect with Kirsty, you're watching it, and obviously Hannah and Nicola. But that storyline was very difficult because you're watching her struggle on the breadline. You're watching her have these very difficult conversations with very young children who just can't understand the level of crisis she's at, which was very, very difficult to watch. But they were so fantastic, all those, so I would give it 5 out of 5 stars. And if you live in the UK, it's on 4OD, please go watch it. They're really quite short and they're just intimate, and you can actually watch them on their own. They're not interconnected at all, but really, really poignant. So now on to a few more lighter recommendations. So the first one I want to recommend is a series on Netflix called Working Mums. Little interlude here right now. I'm going to link all of these down below on Netflix or wherever they're on, so that obviously you can do a bit of Googling and find out all the information that I am too inadequate to provide, by the way. So Working Mums is based in Canada. It's Anne, Kate and another lady who I've just suddenly forgotten her name. And obviously they all have kids. So Kate is a very workaholic, a business-driven woman who is kind of struggling to go back to work and juggle being a mum and the kind of guilt of that. Anna's a qualified therapist and so is her partner, and she's dealing with working at home and kind of feeling a bit guilty having a babysitter there. And the third lady is in a lesbian relationship which is not going very well because the actual character in question has very bad impulse control. She does whatever she wants. She sells the house at some point because she just sells everything on eBay, and she sleeps with other women and she's just not really very centered. So that causes issues, and it's hilarious. They all kind of start at different points each episode, but a lot of them start at the baby class where they've all had the babies at the same time and they're all under a year. So they all go to class for development, and the teacher is hilarious. She's very kooky and strange, and she's like, let's talk about this. And I'm probably butchering it, but it is really, really funny. So they get themselves in some scrapes. Like a Bridesmaids and like that funny woman sense of humour. If you've watched The Wine Country on Netflix and that kind of just hilarious girl humour that boys think really is not funny, but you think's hilarious, then you'll love it and go check it out. So I loved it. I gave it 5 stars because it was so fun. And then this one I'm going to mention purely, this is the one I was talking about that I watched donkeys years ago, but I want to recommend it to you all. So again, if you've lived under a rock, I've missed it, but Most Humans, which I'm so excited about because I've been watching a few booktubers and I've seen them mention it so many times, floating its cultural references, love it, and that is RuPaul's Drag Race. I love it so much. So I've got Paul, my boyfriend, to watch it religiously. So I originally started on season 5 because my sister was halfway through it. Went all the way back, watched 1 to 4, then rewatched 5 because 5 was my favourite. Jinx Monsoon is one of my favourite drag queens who was the winner of season 5. And I've already decided explicitly that the minute I get a dog, which I really want a pug because I'm in love with them, or a Frenchie, I'm going to name my dog after Jinx Monsoon. And for all foreseeable futures, I will have dogs with drag queen names because I just love them so much. So then I went and watched 6 through to 11. And guys, RuPaul's Drag Race UK is coming to BBC 3 and BBC iPlayer in October. So I've just spent the past 20 minutes watching intros of British drag queens. I'm really excited. I'm kind of really interested to see how the British dynamic is going to work. So apparently, many moons ago, they did try it over here, and for some reason it kind of got discontinued, or I don't think it got banned, but I don't really know the politics of what really happened there. But Alan Carr, Graham Norton, obviously Michelle Visage, and Rue, obviously Rue, are all going to be on the judging panel. And it'll be really interesting to see how drag translates in the UK. So I was quite naive watching Drag Race. A good few episodes and said, oh wow, you know, there's a massive community in the US. And I was quite naive to the fact that there's a massive community here. To such extent that I've obviously followed numerous drag queens on Instagram because it gives me life. And now on the recommended section on Instagram, it's just drag queens and dogs. American drag queens have come over here to do acts. Jinx himself, Masker, Sharon Needles, they've all done previous ones. Detox has come over, and a lot of people do DragCon here, but also their own shows around Europe. They did Work the World quite recently. It gives me so much life. I love Raja from season 3. Yes, season 3, and Manila, Luzon, and Alaska from season 5 as well. Oh, and Evie Winters! And Priest Royale, funky yet chunky. So I'm out and proud about it now, which is kind of a relief because I know so many booktubers have mentioned it, and I know that Charles Heathcote has done the RuPaul's Drag Race book tag, which I will probably be doing very soon because God knows I love that show. So it's kind of relevant because there's a new season coming out, but I also saw that Cheeky Rue has put another video up on Instagram saying that a season 12's coming out soon and an All Stars Drag Race 5. So if you've been missing it, it's all coming at once. Like a bus, you wait for a while and they all come at once. So super happy. Love RuPaul. It's one of my guilty pleasures. 5 stars of a series. Go and watch it. Well, it's many series, but go and watch it because it gives you life. Yas queen. Just kind of following on from that because it's all the great camp energy. I've recently just started watching Queer Eye, which is where 5 amazing gay guys transform the life of an individual. So they kind of do a makeover, they go through the diet, they make over the house, grooming and fashion, and make somebody look fabulous. And I'm absolutely loving it. The guys are so cute, and I love the people that they've picked, how like loving and open and caring. They've had a policeman, they've had a man from really far down south, and people that there's prejudice that they wouldn't get on with gay people, and they've had such genuine lovely connections. I was in tears earlier because I got up to an episode where a guy came out as gay to his stepmom, and and they were crying. It was so emotional and beautiful because he'd lost his dad, and he was so terrified. You could tell it was that hysterical blubbering crying of thinking that she kind of would have an issue with their relationship moving forward, and as she's his stepmom, it's a little bit harder, and he was kind of questioning, does she still want a part in my life if she knows, and she was so accepting. Oh, it was so beautiful. They're amazing as well because they're kind of one-off, so you can watch them whenever. I think there's about 3 seasons and I'm only on season 1, but they're just kind of out the blue. They're really great refreshment watches because they're not interconnected, but the boys are just amazing. Show, it doesn't feel staged. It's very obviously some bits are staged, like the whole makeover, but the relationships are so authentic, and it injects such a great vibe into my life at the moment because there's so much negativity, and at work I work in an admin role and there's so much bitchiness, and sometimes just to have those people who are so authentically themselves and so happy about it, and you know, this is who I am and this is what I do, and spreading such positive energy to other people is really a great booster for yourself, because people can be so intrinsically selfish. Such hard work tests you all the time, and to see something that really lifts you up and says, do you know what, that's the point of humanity. Oh, it's just been really refreshing, so I've watched it religiously. So again, 5 stars, I love it. And then the last one I'm going to mention is the fact that Glow had a season 3. So Glow is the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. Season 3 shows them having their gig in Vegas. A lot of things go wrong in the Vegas show. Besides with a really big event that happened, I believe it's filmed in the 80s as well. It seems to be like a really big period at the moment for kind of making shows retro. I believe this show was set in the 80s, and it was something to do with maybe it's not the 80s. Don't quote me. And I didn't know about this, but there was a mission launch, and then the mission launch was a disaster, and there was an accident, and I think everybody died that tried to make that trip in the rocket, and that coincides with their opening night. So some of them in the first episode are very ominous about it, some people think it's disrespectful, and then we go on from there. So all the women have their own internal stories, some other storylines going on. It's a bit more deeper again this season. We've kind of done the body work of learning who these characters are in the past 2 seasons. Well, I would give that 4 stars. It was pretty good, but not as good. I think the second series was my favourite again. I think the Vegas thing got a little bit boring for me before it ended. But that's everything I want to talk about. Thank you guys so much for sticking with this video and watching it till the end if you have done. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye now.